So welcome to Lesson 9. We'll be talking about posting and applying payments. Posting of insurance payments is basically the logging of the payment into the practice management or the billing software, because insurance payers will typically lump their payments together from multiple claims onto one check or one electronic deposit. This will be reflected on the electronic remittance advice, and each claim will be broken down individually. Applying the insurance payment involves reconciling each individual claim listed on the ERA on the insurance payer's payment. So once the insurance payments are posted, any secondary claims can then be created and submitted. And then once all the insurance payments have been received and accounted for and adjusted and posted, the remaining patient responsibilities can then be billed if there are any. ERAs and EOBs, I just wanted to define what those are and what the differences are. The ERA stands for Electronic Remittance Advice, and this is an explanation of the insurance processing that's sent electronically to the provider. A paper copy is called a remittance advice and is abbreviated just as an RA. But the ERA may include multiple patients on one remittance advice, like we mentioned on the previous slide, and they'll usually send one check or one EFT deposit for several claims. The electronic ERAs follow a universal format called the 835 standard ANSI format, and they can be compatible with any software that can upload ERA files. So a lot of practice management software applications have the capability to upload electronic ERAs to allow you to post and apply payments electronically. The EOB is the explanation of benefits. This is provided to the patient, and it explains to the patient the claim process. It also explains if there's any patient responsibilities or coinsurance or deductibles that they are responsible for. Here's an example of a Medicare ERA, and some of the fields that are listed on here, if you can see those, the billed amount, that's what the provider billed the insurance payer. The allowed amount is what the insurance payer allows for a service. The not covered amount that's the amount that's not covered by the patient's policy per the contract with Medicare. The deductible is the amount applied to the patient's deductible that they have to pay. The provider paid, that's the amount that the insurance pays to the provider. Adjustment, that's the amount the insurance payment was reduced due to an adjustment. There can be several reasons, and we talked about the claim adjustment reason codes earlier. And the patient responsibility, this is how much the patient must pay the provider. Now this is a Medicare ERA, but commercial and private insurance payers, their ERAs follow a similar format and include a lot of the same information. Sometimes it's located in different places on the ERA, but they all pretty much include this basic standard information on their ERA. Here's a screenshot in our practice management software that shows where the adjustments are made for insurance payments to the patient account. If you can see that, what we do is enter the insurance payment, and then we'll enter the payment amount, any adjustments that the insurance payer made, and any reference check numbers. And once we enter that, we'll apply that. We'll click on the apply button, and if that completes the insurance payments, we'll change the status and apply and generate a statement, a patient statement, if there is any remaining patient balance due. And here's an example of patient statements. The screen on the left just shows several patient statements that were created at one time, like a batch of patient statements. And those can be created and then printed. And on the right is just an example of a generic preview of a patient statement. But what we recommend and what we do is to send these electronically to a service that will print these and mail them out to a patient. And if you look on that screen on the left, you'll see that little green link icon. Click here to learn more. That's a service that provides that in this particular practice management software. That is well worth it. It saves you a lot of time, and in printing and stuffing envelopes and a lot of postage. Patient collections is one of those topics that kind of scares billing specialists, because there's this fear that they will have to confront patients or call them up and collect from them for any unpaid amounts. And patient collections really involves patient billing and the processes that are used for delinquent accounts. And this typically occurs after 90 days. You may want to employ what's called soft collections before a patient's account is turned over to a collection agency. But usually what patient collections involves is sending like a final notice that their account may be sent to collections if payment's not received, or if they don't call to make payment arrangements. It may involve a phone call to remind the patient of their account status and see if they can make a payment, or just a friendly reminder. You want to work cooperatively with the patient to help resolve any accounts. And if the reason is due to a wrong address, you really don't want to send a patient to collections in a situation like that. So you want to find that out before they're sent to collections, because that's very embarrassing to the provider, and it makes the patient mad. But patient collections is not something that is like a collection agency type collections. It's dealing with delinquent accounts, and sometimes if a provider decides to hire a collection agency, it's communicating those delinquent accounts to the collection agency and coordinating those. And if those get paid, then there's some back and forth and some communication that has to happen there. But that sums up patient collections. Aging reports. Aging reports show the accounts receivable for the billed accounts. And these reports are created in the practice management software, and they typically show outstanding balances in 30-day increments, 30, 60, 90s, and sometimes 120 days. But these are really used a lot, and they're very helpful in recognizing overdue accounts and identifying where follow-up's needed, and really getting an overall assessment of how effective the billing processes are for the practice. Insurance aging reports will show outstanding accounts for insurance payers. Those are ones where a claim has been filed, but they still haven't sent a payment yet, or it hasn't been posted and applied. Patient aging reports show outstanding patient balances where insurance payments have been received and posted and adjusted, and they still have a remaining balance. Good practice is for any accounts over 90 days to be less than 20% of the total accounts receivable for a healthy practice. Here's an example of an insurance aging report, and these vary by practice management software, but they typically are printed out with details such as the patient name, maybe a patient ID, the date of birth, of course the outstanding balances in 30-day increments, the date of service, and they're usually grouped by the insurance payer. So that concludes Lesson 9, Posting and Applying Payments. In our Fundamentals course, we go in much more detail in these topics, but just wanted to give you a high-level view of how payments are posted and applied to patient accounts. So that concludes Lesson 9. We hope you found Chapter 1 helpful and informative. I just want to let you know our Fundamentals of Medical Billing, which includes Chapters 2 through 10, goes into much more depth and detail on each one of these subjects. So again, thank you for checking out Chapter 1. Again, we hope you found it useful and helpful in covering the basics and as an introduction to medical billing.